So you're ready to buy a house that's subject to using none of your money. That's awesome. Do you have the necessary documentation required to protect you, your business, and your new asset? If you don't, you better stay tuned and check this out. Hey, welcome back to REI Simplified. I'm your host, Adam Johnson, where we break down complex real estate situations and scenarios for people like me and you, the beginning investor. Today we're talking about subject to, which is my bread and butter. I love, we bought over 50 houses with none of our money using this method. The big thing that no one talks about is the proper documentation, the protection you need, again, to protect yourself, the business, and the new property, the new asset. So what I get a lot of, people ask me is how to buy houses, how do you find them, how do you market, how do you negotiate? And you can be the best marketer and the best negotiator and the greatest salesman, but if you don't have the documentation you need to protect everything, it's almost pointless because you're leaving yourself up to litigation. You're leaving yourself up to, unnecessary headaches with mortgage companies, with the previous owner, the seller, amongst other things. So today we're going to talk about the 6 documents that we've used to buy all 50 houses and some change, why they're important, and where you can get those documents, because we do have them available for you to download. So without wasting any more time, let's jump right into it. Number 1 is your purchase agreement, okay? So a standardized purchase agreement from a realtor will not suffice dealing with subject to type of transaction, because there's so many unique nuances with the relationship between yourself, the house, and the previous owner, because that owner is still on the mortgage. If you remember the previous videos about a subject to is, I'm able to buy a property, take the deed from the previous owner, the deed transfers ownership to my business, but the mortgage stays with the seller, the previous owner. So it's a lot different, obviously, from the traditional transactions that most real estate professionals are used to dealing with. So your purchase agreement needs to be unique, needs to have certain bits of information in it to include that the mortgage is staying with the seller, that when you're going to take responsibility of the mortgage payments, how long you're going to pay the mortgage payments, amongst other things that make this unique. The taxes, the insurance, all kinds of things are going to be again unique, specific to this type of transaction, because once again, this is not standard. We're taking a property that we're not mortgaging, that the mortgage stays with the seller. So wrap your head around that. The second document we use for all of our transactions to cover ourselves is the subject to statement of understanding. Now what this is a layman's terms breakdown of what's happening. As I said before, it's also covered in the purchase agreement, but I'm going to break it down and just see, have my seller see one more time what's happening, that the mortgage is staying in the seller's name, that Johnson Property Investments is taking control, or my business, your business, is taking possession, and the ownership is transferring from seller to us. Now also in that statement of understanding, it covers the pros and cons for the seller and for us. Nothing is risk-free. So for example, it says, the pros for the sellers that they get to walk away without, making any more payments. We take the house as is, so on and so forth. And the cons is that the due on sale clause is always a possibility that this will stay on their credit report. So amongst other things. And the pros for us, the business taking possession of the property, is that we get a new asset without having to go jump through hoops to get qualified for a mortgage, amongst other pros. And then one of the major cons is that, God forbid, that the house is called, the note is called due on sale, that we lose everything we put into the property. So I try to be very upfront with all of my sellers that there's pros and cons for both them and us. Nothing is perfect, but I'm gonna do another video later about the due on sale clause. The third document that we like to get signed and filled out is the seller information sheet. Why is this important? As I've said many times, that the mortgage stays in the seller's name. So if I have to contact the bank's going to need certain information to be able to look up information for that mortgage. Like, for example, probably the mortgagor's birthdays and the last 4 of the social security number. Now, so if I have the information, I'm able to work with them directly to be able to get information about that mortgage. Now, why is this important? Unfortunately, sometimes a seller will try to drop their problems on you and run away. You'll never hear from those sellers again. You'll call them, you'll email them, but they won't be responsive. So at least now I have that information I need to be able to, again, to talk to those mortgage companies without having to try to find and hope that those sellers call me back, email me back. That almost never happens. It's happened a few times, but for the most part, the sellers and I have a great relationship. They'll pick up the phone if I call them, and vice versa. So have that information sheets filled out, have the information you need so that you can talk to the mortgage company and make your life much easier. The fourth document we use is a letter to the mortgage company. Now let me just be completely honest. We get a letter to the mortgage company that's from the seller that says that our business is taking possession and we have the right to talk to the mortgage company. That letter just simply stays on file. We do not send that letter to PennyMac, Wells Fargo, any of those other companies. It's just simply on file. The reason being is, as I mentioned briefly, the due on sale clause. You don't want to raise any red flags with that mortgage company. All right, so 99% of the time, the mortgage companies are happy that you're paying them on time and paying them in full. They don't care who pays them. Like I said before, I'm gonna do another video about the due on sale clause. So have that letter to the mortgage company on file. If you ever need to use it, at that point, you can mail it in to the mortgage company to have access to talk to them about mortgage information, so on and so forth. The fifth document we like to use is the escrow addendum. Now, why is this important? Because when they sell a house, you're gonna have, almost every time, your taxes and insurance are gonna have a surplus. For example, if you pay the taxes for 12 months, but you sell the house 6 months into the year, you are owed 6 months worth of taxes. With the subject to deal, if I have a property and everything is in the seller's name, but I keep the property for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and I sell the house, there's gonna be a surplus of taxes and insurance almost every single time. That money goes to me. It does not go back to the seller. So again, that escrow addendum is signed by the seller. It's notarized in front of a notary or by a notary, and I can send that in to the mortgage company for the taxes, insurance. I have that addendum for that purpose. I had never had a problem selling a house and being refunded that surplus for taxes or insurance because I have that document. And last but not least, the sixth document we use is the power of attorney. That's almost self-explanatory. The power of attorney is from these sellers to us. It's a specific power of attorney that gives us the ability to make any decisions and actions for this property, to include selling the property, working with the insurance and taxes, everything. We're able to work as if we are the seller with their permission to be able to manage and protect and sell this house whenever we feel like it down the road. So let's recap the 6 documents we use to be able to protect us, our business, and our assets when dealing with a subject to type of transaction. So you have the purchase agreement, very unique to subject to. The statement of understanding is layman's terms on what is happening, who has the mortgage, who has ownership, how we're paying it, so on and so forth. The seller information sheet, I have to have certain information to be able to coordinate and contact the mortgage companies, and that information sheet is my end all because sometimes you may not be able to contact and work with the previous owners. The letter to the mortgage company is simply on file. If we ever need to mail it in to Wells Fargo, PennyMac, or any of the other ones, we can, but we do not initiate contact with the mortgage companies because of the due on sale clause. We'll cover that at a different video. The escrow addendum, that is our money sitting in those taxes and insurance accounts. When we sell the house, the money comes back to us. And lastly, the power of attorney. We have to have the ability to be able to sell that house, to work with the insurance, to make any claims, to refinance if we need to. That is now our house, and we have to be able to act on behalf of the seller. So I'll give you guys a great resource. Our website is reisimplified.co. You're able to download all of these documents, the ones that we've used to buy over 50 houses, again, to protect us, the business, and the assets. I hope you guys got something out of this video. My name is Adam Johnson, the president of Johnson Property Investments and the creator of this channel, REI Simplified. Please like, subscribe, share with a buddy. Why not? It's free. For me, it's always a pleasure making these videos. Until the next one, we'll see you guys later.